Matthew Michael Murdock was a superhero who worked on eradicating crime under the alias of Daredevil, and a blind lawyer who was famously known as the Man Without Fear for being fearlessly daring. As great power invites rigorous challenges, Daredevil had an enormous list of gruesome rivals. In this video, we will explore the top 10 sinister foes of Daredevil who inflicted awful pain and misery on this righteous savior. So get ready to delve into the insanely heroic adventures of your beloved Daredevil. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. Kingpin. First on our list is Wilson Fisk, aka Kingpin, who his peers bullied from early childhood. Upon understanding the importance of fitness, he started vigorously training himself in a diverse range of bodybuilding techniques and specialized in the Japanese martial art of sumo wrestling. Wilson's strange liking for figuring out others' weaknesses and misusing them to his advantage to murder at the age of 12 highlighted his evil nature. Because of his financially weak background, Wilson stole books to obtain knowledge. Upon gaining interest in the subject of political science, he sought to build his own team of villains by assembling potential criminals through politics, thereby making him the kingpin of crime and corruption. Daredevil became Kingpin's prime rival during a gang war in 1972. Once when the former lover of Daredevil, Karen Page, unveiled his true identity as lawyer Matthew Murdock to her drug dealer in a drunken state and the critical information reached his ears, Kingpin was enthusiastic about turning Daredevil's life upside down using the information. Kingpin framed Matt Murdock for bribing a witness to lie in a court hearing, which terminated Matt's license to practice law. A brawl broke out between Kingpin and Daredevil once the latter was rendered penniless after losing his profession. Kingpin's fatal blow knocked Daredevil senseless, nearly killing him, but somehow he managed to survive. Kingpin's incessant assassination attempts on Daredevil through multiple agents like Typhoid Mary and Bullseye were examples of their burning animosity. Kingpin even maneuvered Daredevil into fighting the immoral ninja sect known as the Hand, intending to get Daredevil killed by them. Kingpin had been depicted as a stout criminal mastermind who wore a white suit and smoked cigars. Kingpin's thick muscles safeguarded him against injuries by acting as protective padding. Irrespective of his massive body structure, his agility and beyond ordinary limits, his resilience to psychic attacks, quick-witted and brilliant intelligence, combined with remarkable skills at hand-to-hand combat, proved him to be a menace to Daredevil. Bullseye. A ruthless and sadistic hitman, Bullseye had been hired by numerous criminal masterminds like the Kingpin and Mysterio to assassinate Daredevil, but their rivalry grew exponentially as Bullseye became obsessed with Daredevil on account of losing multiple fights with him. In 1977, Bullseye was involved in a series of criminal activities, including robbing valuables like a premium pistol from a weapon store and committed several murders in the city of New York. Upon gloating over the misfortune caused by him in an interview with the Daily Bugle, Daredevil tracked Bullseye down and stopped his ongoing tyranny. This infuriated Bullseye as he blamed Daredevil for having spoiled his fearsome reputation, and he pledged to avenge Daredevil at every possible opportunity. Once when Bullseye found out that Kingpin had hired Elektra, who was Daredevil's lover, as his replacement, Bullseye killed her, coming to even worse terms with Daredevil. The furious hero locked horns with Bullseye, resulting in Bullseye falling from a great altitude and getting paralyzed. Although his spine smashed into shreds, causing a terrible impact on his fists and his skull as well, this devastating loss turned into Bullseye's favor. His forbearance toward pain reached great heights as his physical robustness increased upon getting his bones coated with a metal alloy adamantium with the help of Lord Darkwind, who was a Japanese crime master. Bullseye then continued to jeopardize Daredevil forever. In another instance, when Bullseye came to blows with Daredevil while trying to abduct a baby under his supervision, Daredevil's current love interest, Karen Page, was killed in the combat. Bullseye's abundant joy knew no limits upon killing his arch-nemesis two most beloved. Bullseye was one of Daredevil's most horrible enemies, owing to the atrocious measures he employed at the drop of a hat. Despite not possessing any such superpowers, Bullseye's ability to aim with absolute precision and never miss his target made him supremely powerful. His style of turning any trivial object into a deadly weapon made his attacks vicious, killing his victims with articles as insignificant as pencils, toothpicks, etc. was simply hilarious and unique. The Hand. The Hand was a clan of ninja warriors possessing dark mystical powers. They served a demonic entity called the Beast, who empowered them to revive from death. After Bullseye murdered Elektra, the Hand sought to resuscitate and recruit her. To stop them from executing their goal, Daredevil joined forces with Black Widow and Stone, a member of the Hand's rival team, the Chaste. A violent battle ensued following the Chaste's team leader Stick's sacrifice while defending his associates. Finally, the Hand was defeated and Elektra's body vanished as Daredevil cleansed her soul through suitable rituals. After this, the Hand resumed playing critical roles in Daredevil's future distresses. On one occasion, Master Izo, the founder of the Chaste, desired to revamp the Hand according to his convenience and targeted Daredevil to accomplish his mission. Izo manipulated Lady Bullseye, a member of the Hand, into turning Daredevil's life utterly chaotic to instigate Daredevil to take control of the Hand and become their leader. But when Daredevil refused to lead the Hand, Lady Bullseye manipulated Kingpin into believing that she had killed his family at Daredevil's orders. Upon Kingpin's confrontation with Daredevil, the two enemies decided to take down the Hand through united efforts. But upon the revelation of Kingpin's ulterior motive of using the Hand to gain the upper hand on him, Daredevil was baffled. He was thereby compelled to take charge of the evil group in his attempt to survive his age-old enemy. Although Daredevil adhered to his belief of reshaping the Hand's unethical perspective into paragons of virtue, he gradually got possessed by the group's mastermind called the Beast. The dark group of ninjas called the Snake Root, having close ties with the Hand, also worshipped the Beast. The Snake Root corrupted Daredevil's mind with the help of their occult powers. As a result, he actuated a series of bestial acts in the name of justice. To stop Daredevil's destructive regime under the influence of the Hand, a large number of Marvel heroes had to team up and purify his soul, ultimately saving him. With the capability of resurrecting their fallen members, the Hand stood as a perpetual menace to Daredevil. Being highly skilled in the art of ninjutsu and supernatural powers, they constantly brewed devious schemes to knock Daredevil down. They brainwashed their newly added members to be absolutely merciless in the group's missions, vowing complete loyalty to them. Since few villains had brought about as much death and massacre as this sinful band, the Hand remained one of Daredevil's most formidable opponents. The Owl. Leland Owlsley initially worked for numerous criminal organizations and kept their investments safe, brilliance in finance. He was referred to as the Owl because of his cunning illicit monetary tactics. With time, the Owl transformed into a terribly intimidating villain as he attempted to overtake the criminal underworld in New York. The Owl had devoted quite a good amount of his savings to the development of highly advanced enhancements and evolved a super serum that provided him the ability to fly. In his attempt to become the undisputed crime lord, the Owl became Daredevil's first official foe. He captured Daredevil with the help of his two accomplices and planned to kill him in a conference meeting of the underworld bosses. Upon Daredevil's success in escaping his captivity, the Owl realized his strength to be insufficient in overwhelming his opponent and hence fled the battleground. Over time, the Owl gained a large number of superpowers, including his upgraded flying ability. By undergoing several offbeat surgical procedures and consumption of experimental drugs, later at a point the Owl engaged in another brawl with Daredevil on Mr. Klein's commands. Fortunately, Black Widow saved Daredevil from the Owl's deadly blow that almost killed him. The Owl's potential to perform intricate aerial maneuvers helped him in his fights. By virtue of his mutation, he had acquired substantial resistance to physical exhaustion and external damages. His smooth reflexes duly restricted his opponent's moves, increasing his durability. His other distinguishing features included his superhuman hearing range and eyesight. He could easily cut through thick flesh with his pointy teeth and sharp nails.
That would be fun to watch.
Typhoid Mary. Mary Walker, aka Typhoid Mary, was a mentally unstable mutant supervillain from Marvel Comics who possessed 3 distinctive personalities. Her 3 divergent characters of being gentle, bold, and brutally sadistic kept unfluctuating. While Mary was working as a prostitute in a brothel, she had a fatal encounter with Daredevil. When the women in the brothel tried to stop him from apprehending a criminal he was after, a perplexed Daredevil accidentally threw Mary out of a window. From that moment onwards, Mary fully embraced her ferocious persona and pledged never to suffer at the hands of any man. Eventually, she went on to get hired by Kingpin to assassinate Daredevil and stood by the villain as his deadly assistant. Abiding by her master's orders, she was involved in frequent clashes with Daredevil. Once, she inflicted severe burns on Daredevil by setting him on fire while he was in his civilian identity as Matt Murdock. Besides possessing powers of telekinesis to levitate small articles across small distances as weapons to bring down her enemies, Mary could set ablaze anything in her close proximity by invoking spontaneous ignition. Mary's abilities to induce sleep in her opponents through her power of hypnosis was bizarre. Trained in martial arts, she was also a proficient swordswoman, excelling in combat skills. Being highly athletic, she always brimmed with energy. She was a professional assassin in her typhoid personality, possessing a serious threat to Daredevil. Purple Man. Zebediah Kilgrave was a secret agent working for the Soviet bloc, who was allocated for the theft of a sample of experimental nerve gas from an American depot. On his way to steal the sample, Kilgrave got shot by a security agent and accidentally struck open the gas container. The spilled gas permanently dyed his skin purple and gave him the power to control others' minds. Kilgrave embraced a life of crime and violence by retitling himself the Purple Man. As the Purple Man, brainwashed the minds of New Yorkers into performing anything he desired and used his powers to become the Lord of the Underworld, he was interrupted by the superhero Daredevil. The Purple Man's mind powers fell short of Daredevil's unwavering dedication to stop his atrocities. Although he got subdued by Daredevil, the Purple Man managed to recompose himself. In his next obnoxious act, the Purple Man manipulated the head of Glenn Industries, Maxwell Glenn, into committing a battery of heinous crimes. But Glenn ultimately committed suicide upon getting arrested. Daredevil learned about how the Purple Man used his powers and tricked Glenn into committing such crimes, and he came to grips with the villain. The fight ultimately altered the Purple Man's perspectives as he retired from his criminal life. The Purple Man's charismatic aura and phenomenal competence of subjugating people by changing their minds made him exceptionally powerful and a difficult rival of Daredevil. His body could effortlessly recover from grievous injuries owing to his mutations. Mr. Fear. Zoltan Drago, who was the owner of a financially ailing wax museum, aimed to breathe life into the wax statues of his museum. He desired to build a private army of his own with the help of his knowledge of chemistry. Although Drago's invented chemical failed to accomplish his mission, it turned out to possess the ability to arouse fear in the ones inhaling it. After such an invention, Drago designed a costume and renamed himself Mr. Fear. Samuel Saxon, an enemy of Daredevil, shot the original Mr. Fear and became the second Mr. Fear after adopting his costume, but was killed at the hands of Daredevil. Lawrence Cranston, who studied in the same law school as Matt Murdock, bore a grudge against him as Cranston once got defeated in a mock trial by Murdock in his first year. Upon learning Matt Murdock's true identity and the entire Samuel Saxon fiasco, Cranston obtained a court order allowing him custody of the Mr. Fear equipment after pretending to be an acquaintance of Samuel. Later, Cranston attempted to establish close ties with Daredevil to attack him and take him down, but Daredevil immediately sensed the fear gas and uncovered Cranston as the current Mr. Fear. In his attempt to escape from Daredevil's clutches, Cranston jumped off the building and faked his death. He began living under the disguise of Harold Cranston, took up the occupation of a professor at Columbia University Law School, and avenged the teachers who had mocked him in his student life by using his fear gas. Mr. Fear laid a trap for Daredevil to ambush him as he arrived to liberate the abducted Daily Bugle news reporter Ben Urich and the targeted teachers under his custody. But Daredevil overpowered Mr. Fear in the battle, who ultimately fled. Afterward, Mr. Fear sent the Molten Man and the insane woman named Insomnia after Daredevil. Then he misled Daredevil to Rikers Island to engage in a violent combat with a new assassin. At a point, he recruited Turk Barrett and the Enforcers and succeeded in decoying Daredevil into the exposure of a drug, which led him to experience severe hallucinations. Cranston also induced Daredevil's wife, Milla, with the same drug, making her manic-depressive and Daredevil's life miserable. Thus, Mr. Fear had repeatedly troubled Daredevil on various occasions. With his spine-chilling ability to evoke fright, Mr. Fear compelled anyone to cater to his whims and fancies. His mind power enabled him to terrorize those who showed reluctance. Cranston's newly developed memory scent reminded Daredevil of his deceased former lover Karen Page, weakening him in combat. Ikari. Ikari was a youth who was subjugated to the toxic chemicals that granted Daredevil his superpowers under the experiments of scientists assembled by Bullseye during the time of his paralysis. The experiments gave him similar powers that equaled Daredevil's, making him a terrific contender. Ikari translated to Fury in Japanese, and he used to wear a costume identical to that of Daredevil. Ikari could also determine his surroundings with the help of his extraordinary sense of perception, just like Daredevil, and thus was infamously known as the Reverse Daredevil. But unlike Daredevil, Ikari's ability to see gained him an upper hand. On his first conflict, he was hired by Bullseye to aid Lady Bullseye in murdering Daredevil. Ikari beat Daredevil harshly, nearly to the brink of his death, but left him alive with a warning. Later on, Daredevil's closest friends Kirsten McDuffie and Foggy Nelson were taken hostage by Ikari under the commands of Kingpin. When Daredevil learned of the abduction and confronted Ikari, they fought for several hours with equal resistance until the Shroud finally reached the battleground and killed Ikari. Ikari's exceptional expertise in martial arts and magnified senses made him a gruesome adversary to Daredevil, who struggled a lot in their face-offs. Nuke. Frank Simpson, aka Nuke, was a disturbed child of a rich but abusive lady and her husband named Charles Simpson, who was emotionally tormented by his wife's misconduct. Frank caught the attention of the evil Romulus, who sent his agent Betsy to work as Frank's babysitter and eventually delivered him to them. As Betsy gained Frank's love and trust, she manipulated him into killing his rude mother. Logan, aka Wolverine, who was also serving as a member of Romulus's secret organization, killed Betsy on the same night when Frank murdered his mother. Betsy's demise led Charles to commit suicide as he harbored feelings for her. By leading Frank to execute numerous violent crimes, Logan pushed him to become a ruthless killing machine. In the Weapon Plus program conducted by the US government, Nuke was selected to become a super soldier and was put through a sequence of experiments to make him powerful through the ingestion of chemicals. A physically strengthened Nuke equipped himself with a gun, which he named after his dead babysitter Betsy. Afterward, Kingpin employed Nuke and dispatched him on mission to kill Daredevil. As Nuke whacked civilians in Hell's Kitchen and harmed Karen Page, Daredevil got involved in combat with him and damaged his gun. Nuke's bones were replaced with advanced materials that provided him with exceptional strength. His skin, which had been substituted with a kind of plastic along with his enhanced metabolism, helped him withstand and recover quickly from unfavorable conditions. The second heart that he had been implanted with complemented the various pills that Nuke consumed depending upon his requirements. The intake of red pills increased his muscles' resistance to fatigue and boosted his endurance. White pills reduced his strength and blue pills relaxed his senses. An expert combatant due to his experience in wars, Nuke was totally savage with pistols. Stilt-Man. Wilbur Day, who was employed by Carl Caxton in Caxton Labs, stole his boss's newly invented hydraulic ram device's designs and used it to create a suit that he adopted, renaming himself the Stilt-Man. The Stilt-Man's suit of superlatively long metal legs allowed him to tower over Manhattan's skyscraper buildings with utmost ease. Daredevil had a deadly encounter with him when he proceeded in his rampage to kill the citizens who had taken refuge in a church to survive the fire destroying their locality. As the Stilt-Man set about to bombard the locals with his explosives, Daredevil attacked him. With support from other associates, Daredevil managed to overpower him. With the company of the masked marauder, Stilt-Man tried to harm Daredevil but proved to be unsuccessful. Then he joined with Electro, Matador, Leapfrog, and Gladiator formed the Emissaries of Evil group and embarked on destroying Daredevil. Once, the Stilt-Man attacked Daredevil on the set of a Hollywood movie under the guise of a stuntmaster. Years later, he kidnapped his previous employer, Carl Caxton's daughter, Barbara, forcing Caxton to return to San Francisco and rebuild the molecular condenser of the Stilt-Man to fulfill his vengeance on Daredevil. Followed by a rigorous conflict, Daredevil, accompanied by the Black Widow, knocked the Stilt-Man down and saved Barbara. In view of Stilt-Man's involvement with Daredevil on multiple occasions, he proved to be one of Daredevil's most enduring foes. The Stilt-Man possessed scientific intelligence along with outstanding strength. His battlesuit's silicone coating was resistant to sticky substances and supported excellent protection from attacks. The Stilt-Man used gas grenades as projectiles to render his enemy unconscious. Marvelous verdict. Daredevil's title of the bravest and the most dedicated hero of the Marvel Universe is off no surprise. His life journey had been a macabre series of murder and madness. He had justified his name after emerging triumphant in fights with several notorious villains. Despite his deadly rivals' abominable cruelty and cunning strategic moves to kill him, Daredevil emerged victorious on every occasion due to his outstanding courage. Owing to his supremely unique powers like intensified senses and echolocation, Daredevil successfully defeated all these horrible villains. If you liked the content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.